discussion?
Sure. Our gracious Heavenly Father, let's thank you for this day that we can come together and do your work for the Cherokee people. Please protect all the elderly and those afflicted from this heat, that they might survive it and that we'll get some relief from it. Guide and direct each of us that we might do your will. Bless each one here and give them traveling grace as they leave the meetings today. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Roll call show.
Curtis Snell.
Here.
Chris Soap.
Here.
Bill England. Bill John Baker.
Here.
Jack Baker.
Here.
Harley Bezer.
Yes.
Julia Coates. Here. Bradley Cobb. Joe Crittenden. Jody Fishenhawk. Meredith Braley. Here. Janelle Fulbright. Here. Don Garvin. Chuck Hoskin Jr. Hannah Tori Jordan. David Thornton. Kara Cowan Watts. Ahani. John Masters. We do have a film.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I'd like to amend the agenda to add a resolution to the agenda today at this committee and to make the motion go to full council meeting tonight for approval. I believe everybody has a copy of the resolution. What it is a resolution to seek a grant from for the VISTA funds to help the low-income people that live in Cherokee communities to fill out income taxes and to help them do that electronically. And what they're doing is people that can't afford to go to the shop and pay somebody to do it is they're going to go out and actually help those people to fill their income taxes out. So I would like to make a motion to move this to the committee today as item number 5.
With a
We're having
friendly
discussion.
amendment. Second with a friendly amendment.
Yes.
To add 2 items, to also go to full council, 2 pesticide grants, which are in front of you, hard copies are in front of you, for the EPA grant for 2 pesticide grants, as well as move the first item under new business to full council tonight as well, assuming it's passed.
Yes, I'll accept that.
Thank
I'll
you.
accept that amendment.
No second? Second. All in favor? Any questions? Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. Moving on to reports, management resources, Angela Cruz.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, committee members. As always, you've got my report in your packet. And if you've got any questions, I'll take those. But while you're looking over that, I wanted to go ahead and pass out once again, so you'll have these in hand in case you get calls from your constituents regarding the hunting and fishing laws that we have put out on the website. And this is what the information looks like that's on the website. So there's a page 1 and a page 2, so make sure you take both of those. And then in this month's issue of the Phoenix, and I looked to make sure that it is in there, there is a public notification on the front side. It's about your National Treasures nominations, or on one side, and on the other side is the hunting and fishing code facts. And basically, communications took what was on the website and put it into this public notice. So it's just, it may be in a little bit of a different format, but it is the same information. So I've tried to look at all of it, and it doesn't look like there is any conflicting information. And at the request of Councilwoman Fishenhawk, I believe that she also asked that there be a separate mail out that is just on the hunting and fishing facts to go out to all of those that are on the mailing list for the Phoenix. And so there's going to be another mail out coming out just, I guess it's just in case somebody misses it in the newspaper, because it's to the exact same mailing list. On that, I haven't looked at the public notice real close at the bottom to see if it gives contact information, but I do know on the page for the website it does give the natural resources staff names where people can be forwarded to ask additional questions if the information that's in that is not clear enough. So Pat Gwynn is the contact person for natural resources at this point, or myself, and Mark Dunham and the natural resources staff can also answer any of those questions. So if you have any questions that you want answered before you try and talk to your constituents about it, we can talk about those now, or you can call natural resources at any time.
I have a question. If they can hunt, is this just on our certain tribal lands or all of the 14 county area? Is it like in Savoy County, is it just down there on the 850 acres on the Corps of Engineer and some property at Marble?
Any property that is owned by the tribe, they can hunt on it without being cited. But we still feel that if they are hunting on any property within the 14 county jurisdiction, that we have the right to hunt and fish there. Now, most likely, they will get ticketed if they're on property that is not tribal property, but we are really looking for a good test case for someone that does not have any outstanding warrants or anything on their record, because if we can get a good, clean test case, we feel like that this could really set a precedent for us. We are still working with the state, trying to get some negotiations for a compact, but nothing's moved on that in a while. So although we would like to have a good test case, folks do need to be aware that if they're going to test those waters, they really need a clean record for us to be able to take that on and try it in court.
So just to be safe, if they don't want to test anything,
Right.
they need
They
to be
need to
on
stay
the
on tribal
property.
property. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yep.
Is there a map available that shows where that?
They can come to Natural Resources. I believe that on the webpage, it just shows our jurisdictional boundary, but if they're looking for a specific tract that they can have good boundary lines for, if they'll go see Pat Gwynn, we'll process that for them.
Thank you.
Councilman Craig?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All that's on the webpage.
Angela,
Yes, sir.
if you have this person who has got a clean record or never got caught doing anything, if you use them as a test case, this would be a misdemeanor violation of the hunting and fishing code, not a felony.
I'm going to say yes to that.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And any questions like that that you need clarification on, I don't feel comfortable speaking about the law. Diane Hammonds is the person that I would rather clarify, or someone on Diane's staff, but I do believe it would just be a misdemeanor.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Whenever, is everybody done on the hunting and fishing? Because I'm on a different issue. What is the program called, Angela, that, where we'll send out equipment to help with community gardens and maybe fixing a roadway that's on private property, it's not on part of the county right of way? What is that program called?
It's within Natural Resources, and we refer to that as our Gadoogie Service Program.
Okay. Did we, when we were up at Bull Hollow, did we pass something where we would provide the gas to go with the equipment?
Yes, you guys did pass some funding that if there was someone who could not come up with their self-help portion of that those funds could go to help individuals who couldn't come up with their funding.
Recently, I was at a community meeting, and something was said about this program, and whoever addressed the question, which I don't think was from your department, said they have to pay for the gas and there was something else. And I was thinking that we had tried to address that issue.
Well, they do have to pay for their fuel, because the whole thing about it being a Gadoogie service project is they have to have some sort of self-help initiative.
But if we get the elderly folks that can't provide the gas, did we not cover that?
Yes,
With the
you did,
no
but
amount of money that we passed up at Bull Hollow.
You did, but here's how we handle that, because if we go out there and we make it known to everyone that the council has set aside money to pay for the field, then everybody's going to come and say, I can't afford to do it. And that's the whole thing about that program, is we're coming and they're getting an extremely reduced rate. I mean, most people don't pay over $100, and some of their projects are pretty lengthy. So what we do is when they contact us to see if we can help them with the project, we go out and we assess it and we tell them what the project's going to cost. And we don't say up front, we have funding if you can't afford it. What we do is we wait until that person then comes back and says, I can't afford this much, because some of them will even come back and say, I can afford this much, but I can't afford the total amount. Then that's when we dip into the amount of money that you've set out there. So that's how we've been working that, because if you let people know that on the front end, you're going to have everybody saying, we can't afford it.
The only problem at this meeting was the way it was projected to the people. It actually was discouraging them from even making an application for it, because the ones that were asking about it, the comment that was made was, well, we don't even have the money for the gas. But it wasn't your department. I'll visit with you afterwards. Okay. And I thought when they said it, and I didn't try to correct them, because I wondered what actually was.
And there are some other programs out there, I'm sure, that may do some similar work like we do.
They were describing your project.
Oh, okay.
I know they were describing. They didn't name it, but I knew when they were talking about the equipment and community gardens, and I knew it was the one that we had talked about at Bull Hollow.
Yeah, just get with me after this, because we definitely, again, we don't go out and publicize that we've got that pool of money sitting there, but for anyone that has come back and said, I can't afford the full amount, or because some people will even negotiate and say, could I pay this or that, and so we do work with the community.
And I'm just sure it wasn't from a representative from your department.
Okay. Well,
it was another department out here. Okay. I'll give you the afterwards.
Okay.
Yes,
Angie, I noticed on here you cleared at Oak Sewer Lagoon for water and sanitation. Just FYI, they've been granting some stimulus money for around $300,000 that lagoon too, so just keep that in mind.
Okay.
I think it's coming down fairly quickly, and I'm happy to get it, because they certainly need the lagoons out there. The other thing is, have we got any options or located any properties in Delaware County around Jay for our new clinic that's in the planning stages at some point in time?
We're working on that.
Okay.
There's some property, since we're on the front end, I'm just going to say there is some property that we're looking at, and I can visit with you about it. But yes, that's one of our strategies, is we're trying to pick up property that would allow us to expand that campus.
Okay. Thank you.
While we're on property acquisition, just protocol-wise, so you'll know how we're going to handle this in the future, and we can talk about it. If there's a better way, maybe that we can go about it. But on our properties, we don't want to bring things up too soon because of a proprietary nature when we're looking at trying to acquire lands. So the way I would like to handle that is when we're at the point that we're fixing to close, that I can bring that to you, so in case properties in your jurisdiction that you don't read about it in the newspaper or hear about it through word of mouth, and I can either do that prior to the meetings, or I can let you know during the meeting. But one of the properties that we just recently closed on is a piece of property in Collinsville that was there at the Collinsville Community Building, and that one was one where they purchased the property for their building, but then they couldn't get utilities to it because they couldn't get right-of-ways and easements, and so we closed on that one. And really, that's going to enhance things for that community because they can do more around their building. And we got them 44 acres for $124,000, and that property appraised at $150,000. So we bought it under appraised value. A property that we'll be closing on this Friday, as long as the check comes off the accounting like we plan on it. will be the Charlie Kirk property, which is out here on the bypass, and it's a 396-acre piece of property. It appraised for $6,400 an acre, and we actually negotiated that down to $3,105.43 an acre. So we got a good buy on that property. So total value that we paid was $1,229,748. We'll be closing on that at 4 o'clock at Tahlequah Abstract. The planned use for that property is it will be a really nice site for some future housing, and we are looking at some commercial property as well along it. So that should really be a good property for us to do some planned development on. So we're looking forward to that. The Jameson property, which is, if you're familiar with where the old car wash is, where Downing intersects with, what is that? Downing and Water Street. There was a little pie-shaped piece of property that segregated between where the road is and where the car wash property is, and we were able to pick that piece of property up as well. And it was 0.2 acres, and we got that for $42,500. And I know that sounds like a lot of money for that smaller piece of property, but the asking price was $60,000, and it appraised for $45,000. So we picked it up for less than appraised value as well. So now we own that whole part from the corner all the way over to where the 3 little rent houses are. We don't own where the rent houses pick up, but that's a nice piece of property that goes all the way to the creek, and so it can tie in with Norris Park, and there's a lot of really neat stuff that we can do with that little piece of property. And I think in the future, we've already got Commerce possibly looking at putting a farmer's market on that site, so we'll have a farmer's market on the other end of town, and where it's in an area where there's lots of grass and nice surroundings. So, and those are the only properties that we've got right now in the works. There's a lot that we're looking at, but those are the only ones that we're looking at closing on in the near future. And one of the things you might keep in mind with our NAHASDA dollars, of course, we're looking at lands for our NAHASDA purchases that we have worked on with education and community services. We have specific areas that we have set out that we know we're looking for properties in, but we also have the riverbed dollars that we're also acquiring land for community purposes and for cultural purposes. So there's different things that are driving why we're buying land. So
Yes, sir.
just wanted to make you guys aware of that.
Andy, one question I had on the riverbed money. Is that the money that when you purchase land goes straight into trust?
Well, it doesn't go straight into trust. It's a faster process. I think we did a test case, and it took us right at a year. Is that correct?
Under a year.
And is even that process, is that going to be stagnated on this until the BIA figure out what we're doing in the country area?
It should not be, because it's a specific act that allows us to have a mandatory trust area. If we buy property in a certain area, they're taking trust for us.
Okay.
Council Lady Jordan?
Well, I was going to ask you about the Kirk property, because I noticed this weekend there was a new for sale sign up on it. So I didn't know if it fell through or what.
No, we go to closing this Friday.
I mean, it's a good deal, and I want you to get it, but I did notice that new sign, and that was.
I don't know.
It was from another realtor, though, not the realtor that had help with it.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
We'll look
It
into
was,
that.
I think this one was Houseman. That's not who y'all are getting it from, is
Did
it?
you say Housing?
Well, it's not actually Houseman. It's the one that went in with Houseman. I can't think of her.
Willis.
Yeah.
Well, I wonder, because there's a little piece of property that's in, and I don't remember what the acreage is, but there's a little house place.
But it didn't come all the way to the road, does it? To the bypass?
The little house place?
Yeah.
No.
It's just kind of.
Yeah, it's off. It's a little ways back off the
I don't think it's
bypass.
that.
You don't think
He
it's
had it
that?
on, or she had it on the commercial, what I thought would be the commercial part.
That
No, which is,
strip that goes up to, what's it called, road, Mud Valley?
Yes.
It should go over.
No, it wasn't on Mud Valley, it was on
It
the
was on-
bypass.
that's interesting, because on the Kirk property, I'm trying to think,
You have a little strip that's gonna come out,
Right.
it's a narrow strip.
right? So it
That
was
is-
not back off of,
The gentleman that worked for Mr. Kirk, he owns that
right,
narrow strip. But this was on the,
on the
what
big
you had
open
shown
part.
me would be the commercial part.
I don't know. We'll check into it and see why that's on there. Thank you for letting us know that.
Do we have any more questions for Angela? Thank you, Angela.
I'm going to be leaving the meeting, so if there's any more natural resources questions that come up in this meeting, if you don't mind, just send me an email or management resources. Thank you.
Next, Linda Dawson.
Good afternoon. I believe you have my report in your packet, and if there's any questions?
Yes, Mr. Irvin.
I might need to hold this question for Tom. I don't know, it's concerning that cross road, that deep well, that dump well, they call it.
Uh-huh.
Are you familiar with what they're doing down there?
Okay, that one that on the Swank property on further down, I think that's where that is. And Tom may know more about that, but I do know that that's the salt well issue that's come up. So he may know more about it than I do on that
I'll
one.
hold it for Tom.
Okay, thank you.
Any more questions for Linda?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Linda.
You're gonna get back with us on the,
Environmental Program, Tom Elkins.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen. You have our report, so there's a couple things I would like to elaborate on. One of them was at the landfill. There were a couple complaints issued about the landfill to the Department of Environmental Quality in Oklahoma. They have no jurisdiction. They forwarded them, instead of forwarding them to us, they forwarded them to the EPA, and then the EPA contacted us about them, and we went out there on site and checked them out. There were some oil spots. Somebody said that there were some oil spills out there. Excuse me, I still have some of that in my chest. I'm a little bit better though. But what they were, some of those people were doing maintenance on those equipment out there, and they just didn't catch the oil. They changed some oil. They had done some repairs, spilled some hydraulic fluid. They should have put some drip pans under it or something, or they should have just captured that oil and disposed of it properly. They didn't. We didn't formally write them up. I wrote Doug a memo. It's more of a housekeeping issue. It's nothing that left site. It doesn't look good. It was silly to do that. They need better housekeeping than that. But it isn't something that's a major issue. It wouldn't be something that I would write them up for. The other one, it said that there was some red ooze coming out of the landfill, and we went all over the landfill. There are some seeps on there. If you go out on site today, you wouldn't recognize that from what it was a year and a half ago. It really looks good. What it was, there's a little seepage out of one of the cells, and it's something that it just needs maintenance on. They need to put a little more cover on. It's not trash coming out or anything. It's just they need to maintain those slopes. And the whole package, one of the reasons I didn't go further on it than just a memo and then something we'll follow up with, is that the whole package of their construction is going to encompass terracing those slopes to where they won't have those. So we know there's some issues out there like that. It's not something of a major issue at all. It's something that needs done. It's not something I would write them up for, especially since their plan of action in that construction addresses all those issues. If they don't address them relatively soon, I'll write them up. But right now I've handled it with a memo, and I will follow that up.
That's correct.
Tom, what's that process then? You made mention that instead of the reporting going to the Cherokee Nation, it goes to ODEQ, and they go to the EPA, the EPA comes back to us. Then what do they expect you to do after that? Is it, do they expect?
They don't expect anything. They called us about it.
Kind of gave us a friendly FYI.
That's all it was.
Okay.
And so I called them with a couple of our staff that goes out there quite regularly, and told them how we would handle it, and they said, yeah, we didn't think it was any issue, but, and those folks had already been out there looking at it.
Right. So if they expect that in the future, is it the same process or?
Well, it just depends on where the complaint comes to. We have gotten complaints ourselves, and we have a database of those.
Right.
And when we do those, we handle them. If it's something that, we've never had anything that we really couldn't handle.
Right.
There's some things that, like there's been a spill out at the outpost in Fort Gibson that went beyond just, it had to be reported to the EPA.
Right.
And so we reported that. It wasn't something, I mean, C&E handled it that quick. They have a response contractor that came out immediately, caught all the product, and it wasn't an issue. It still needed reported though.
Right.
So we did that. But yeah, we have a mechanism for it.
Okay. I just wondered if it was the same, if we kept doing that, it would follow the same process, or if there was another type of
It just depends on who they report it
notification
to.
that the ODEQ would do. They're just kind of covered in there.
They just, yeah, they're going to go to EPA. They're not going to call us.
Right. Okay.
Any more questions, Tom?
May I follow up on that with, right here? I apologize for not getting back with you on that.
Kind of brief the council on what we
Okay.
found down there and what we're doing and so forth.
We have some property on Ross Road out there. We just, is that in trust now, Linda? It is. It is in trust. There's some adjacent property that has filed a permit to inject salt water. That's done all over it's done all over the country. It's not done as much here as it is in western Oklahoma, because we just don't have as many oil wells here. But what they do, they drill an injection well. Some of these wells, I have a background in petroleum, I know a little bit about it. Some of these wells are actually under a vacuum. And they drill them thousands of feet. This particular permit was almost a mile deep. So it's well below any drinking water. Water that you would get out of the ground that low is already brine water. It's salt water. But it has to be cased. It has to be put in, pumped in underground. So like I say, sometimes many of those wells are actually under vacuum, depending on the oil production in that area. We have one of these wells up at Chilocco. So we maintain an oil injection well. For good or bad, all of the 5 tribes, all of our injection wells are, this was a federal statute that gave the Oklahoma Conservation Commission authority to regulate those. So this is not our well, but it is adjacent to our property. If it was our well, it would be regulated by them. I don't see it as anything, saltwater. The biggest problem with saltwater injection well is that people don't inject it, they just dump it on the ground. And that's where you get those brine scars that just devastate the land. The actual injection of the salt water is not an issue. I mean, it's done safely, it's done all the time. But the problem is when you get contractors that just don't want to do that, and they just want to dump the water and drive off, and that's where the problem is.
Where does this water come from, Tom?
It comes from whenever you drill and pump oil, that oil that comes to the surface has water in it.
Are they drilling in that area around?
There are some. It's very, very minimal around that area, but it can be brought from other places as long as it's permitted. And it's a permitted well. It could be brought in from Arkansas. It could be Oklahoma water, production water. But whenever you drill wells, you're going to have half and half. Some wells are more water than they are oil, but they have an oil water separator there. The water is, water rises, oil rises on that. They filter that off and they pump the water back down into a well. But it's a routine process. I can't say it's good, but there are a lot of things that happen that are a lot worse. If that gets dumped on the ground, it's terrible. It's devastating to that. If it's a routine process, it can just, grass won't grow. Nothing will grow. It's salted earth. It won't grow. But if it's done correctly and it's pumped down that deep, that water that comes from that deep is salt water.
So you'll keep an eye on that well?
And we'll follow up on it, yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Councilman Burton?
How close is the well to our property line?
It's not real close. It's property that's adjacent to it. So,
About a quarter of a mile.
yeah, something to that effect, yes, sir.
Ms. Kara?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess the key for me is that the Environmental Protection Commission, which is authorized under our environmental acts, you're engaging them and you report to them when during their meetings, any of these kind of activities, so that they have that oversight, which they've been given the authority. So ultimately, like, they could, even if you disagreed, you present that information to them, and they could decide as a commission to fine or halt activities, actually, right, if needed.
If it was under their jurisdiction, certainly.
So you're saying that maybe some of these examples you've given are that they're not under their jurisdiction?
The salt water?
Like, but or not under their jurisdiction, meaning they wouldn't have oversight over what your group's doing? Or just
This
you don't have
particular well is
tribal
not on
oversight?
our land, it's
I understood
adjacent to
that,
it.
okay.
Yeah,
But they have ultimate authority when it comes to our environmental
certainly.
issues.
And we can
Okay.
pass laws, just because the feds have given that to the state, doesn't mean that we can't have our own laws on our own land,
Correct.
certainly. And do. I mean, we have solid waste laws, but we're not, the federal government can't delegate those federal statutes and laws to us.
Any more questions for Tom?
Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Moving on to old business. Bill John, Sheriff, you got the first resolution.
Mr. Chair, there's been additional information brought forward. This company has, can I talk to it publicly? They've actually mortgaged our property somehow, and that's problematic. I'm going to actually make a motion to table here in a moment. But I have grave concerns about this. I think that that is an affront to the Cherokee Nation. I hope that the administration considers terminating the contract and seizing such property in possible lawsuit, because if this was done to any other company or organization, they would act swiftly and aggressively, because how could they think of doing this to the Cherokee Nation? Is it just because we're Indian people that they think they can get away with it? And that would be my question. So move to table.
Thank you.
1 month.
I move table,
Thank you.
second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, same. Motion carries. Moving on down to new business. Item number 1. Tom, would you like to address this?
Sir. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a pesticide, a lead grant to EPA. It was one that was, it wasn't as tight of a deadline as the other two pesticide resolutions that we asked to amend the agenda for, but this was one that we hadn't applied for in the past. It's relatively, the funding is very competitive on this, but it's something that would supplement what we do now rather than supplant what we're doing. We could use, it'd just be more effective for us if we can get this. Again, it's very competitive. The timeline is relatively short, and there is no match with it. We hope to get it.
Move to approve.
Second.
And that's with going straight council tonight.
Right.
Please.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you, Tom. Moving on to the next resolution, Carrie Callen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This resolution is a grant to EPA for a $190,000 grant for brownfield sites, which are also what used to be called considered Superfund sites, really. And it's to identify and do plans for cleaning them up. And it's $190,000 with no match. I move to approve.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to resolution number 3, Bill John Baker.
Yes, this is, since we got the restaurant and the grounds here put in trust, it's the lease to the restaurant, to continue that lease, but to go to the BIA now that it's in trust. And I move for approval.
Second.
Move second, all in favor? Pardon me.
Is this item 3?
Item 3, yes, sir.
Item 3 is lease trust land to the Cherokee National Historical Society.
I apologize. I was on the wrong page, but I removed, did we approve that as well?
And I'll say,
Well, what was, I'm sorry.
We'll get
Yes,
to
it's
it.
on there. Two motions. Motion is to approve item number 3.
Was that a friendly amendment to include item 4 at the same time?
No.
The one for the new restaurant was actually for the
Okay.
council.
Okay. All right.
I've got a motion and a second.
Restaurant on council was here last.
Item 3?
Item 3.
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Number 3 carries. Okay, move on to item number 4. This will be Councilor Bill Langman.
Okay, this will be request to transfer the building and grounds of the W.W. Hastings Hospital to the Cherokee National Trust status. I move for its approval.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Moving on down, are there any announcements?
We got 3 minutes.
We have an amendment. I believe it's the VITA grant first, right?
Right.
The tax grant.
Yes, Bill.
Can we move that last item to full council tonight?
Number 4?
Yeah, the Hastings property.
I'll second his motion to move it straight to council.
Got a motion second to move item number 4, the resolution of W.W. Hastings to full council tonight. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Councilman Buzzard, you got a,
Yes, I make a motion to approve this grant application to Vista. To also make in that motion to move to full council tonight.
second motion. Got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. The other 2 we have resolutions here. Sheriff, these are the ones that you had already amended the agenda.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to approve both of these items at once. Both are to the EPA for the same pesticide grant monies, but one's on behalf of the tribe for $71,000 and the other one's on the tribe as the administrator of the Intertribal Environmental Council, ITEC, for $100,000. Neither grant requires a match, but it would require 2 separate applications. I'd like to move both to approve today at Resources and straight to council tonight.
Second motion. All in favor of this motion?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Now we're moving on to announcements. Announcements, I hear motion to adjourn.
Well, then.
All in favor? Aye. Adjourn.